The Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio fell silent at 12:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Not the silence of a respectful crowd. Not the silence of a tense moment. The silence of abandonment. Alexandra Eala was 3 games away from one of the most dominant victories of her career. She led 6-1, 3-0. She was serving. She was unstoppable. Elena-Gabriela Ruse had no answers. The Filipina sensation was putting on what could only be described as a methodical clinic, dismantling the woman who had broken her heart 2 years ago at the U.S. Open qualifiers. Then the sky turned dark. Lightning flashed on the horizon. Tournament officials made the call. Players were rushed off the court. Spectators were told to seek shelter. The match was suspended. And then, nothing. Hours passed. The storm cleared. The skies brightened. Other matches resumed. But Eala and Ruse remained in the locker room. No announcement. No explanation. No restart. The tennis world began to ask questions. Why wasn't the match restarted? What was happening behind closed doors? Was there something more than just weather? For hours, Alex Eala stayed silent. She didn't post on social media. She didn't give interviews. She simply waited. And the silence only fueled the speculation. Then, she finally spoke. And what she revealed has left the WTA absolutely stunned. People think it was just about the lightning, she reportedly said. But there was more to it. Much more. Welcome to the story of a match that was suspended, a silence that spoke volumes, and a young woman who refused to let anyone, not the weather, not the officials, not her opponent, stand in the way of her destiny. August 15th, 2026. Mason, Ohio. The Lindner Family Tennis Center. The Cincinnati Open, one of the most prestigious events on the WTA calendar, with $7.5 million in prize money on the line, was in full swing. Alexandra Eala, seeded number 17 and ranked no. 20 in the world, was making her debut at the tournament after receiving a first-round bye. She was fresh off a historic title run in Washington and a 7-match winning streak that had made her the talk of the tennis world. Her opponent was Elena-Gabriela Ruse, the 28-year-old Romanian who had once denied Eala her first Grand Slam main draw appearance at the 2024 U.S. Open qualifiers. The revenge narrative was already written. All that remained was for Eala to execute. Execute she did. From the opening exchanges, Eala took control. Her left-handed forehand was devastating. Her aggressive returning pushed Ruse behind the baseline, leaving the Romanian scrambling. Eala raced through the opening set, 6-1, repeatedly applying pressure to Ruse's serve and dominating the longer rallies. She was simply manhandling the Romanian, one observer noted. The second set was more of the same. Eala won the first 3 games, establishing a double-break advantage. She was serving at 3-0, just 3 games away from a statement victory. The crowd, a sea of Filipino flags waving in the stands, was ecstatic. The chants of Laban, Alex, echoed through the stadium. Then, the interruption. Ruse called for a medical timeout. She received treatment on her right foot, though no specific injury was immediately disclosed. The delay seemed minor. But then the sky darkened. Lightning was detected in the area. Tournament officials had no choice but to suspend play. The Cincinnati Open announced the suspension on social media. Play has been suspended due to inclement weather approaching. Please seek shelter. Eala and Ruse left the court. The crowd dispersed. The stadium fell silent. And the waiting began. Hours passed. The storm moved on. The skies cleared. But the match did not resume. Fans who had traveled from across the United States to watch Eala play, one group had even planned their entire college reunion around this match, were left in limbo. The ticketing system that had crashed just days earlier due to unprecedented demand was now dealing with a new challenge: refunds and rescheduling. What was taking so long? The initial reports suggested that the stoppage involved lightning, and players could not return until tournament officials determined conditions were safe. But the lightning had passed. The conditions were safe. Other matches had resumed. So why not Eala versus Ruse? The silence from tournament officials was deafening. No firm resumption time had been announced. No explanation was given. The tennis world began to speculate. Was there a disagreement between the players? Was Ruse unable to continue? Was there an issue with the court? And then, the most intriguing question of all, why wasn't the match simply restarted? Eala, for her part, stayed silent. She didn't post on social media. She didn't give interviews. She simply waited in the locker room, her racket by her side, her mind focused on the task ahead. But behind the silence, something was brewing, something that would shock the tennis world when it finally came to light. To understand why Eala's silence was so significant, you have to understand what was at stake. The Cincinnati Open is the third largest tennis event in the United States, behind only the U.S. Open and the Miami Open. With 1,000 WTA ranking points on the line, every match is crucial for players looking to make a deep run at the U.S. Open. For Eala, the stakes were personal. This was a rematch against the woman who had denied her a Grand Slam dream. This was her chance to prove that she had grown, that she was no longer the teenager who had fallen apart at the U.S. Open qualifiers. This was her chance to continue her revenge tour, a season defined by defeating every opponent who had previously beaten her. She had already done it against Renata Zarazua, against Maya Joint, against Iga Swiatek, against Zheng Qinwen, against Leylah Fernandez, against Jessica Pegula. Now it was Ruse's turn, but the waiting was taking its toll. The momentum she had built was fading. The adrenaline was draining. The uncertainty was gnawing at her. Earlier in the week, Eala had admitted she was tired, as one can be at this stage after a grueling 2-week stretch. She had played more matches than any other player on the WTA Tour, earning her the title of the busiest player on tour. She had extended her winning streak to 7 matches in Toronto before falling to Belinda Bencic. Now, she was being forced to wait, to sit, to wonder. "I'm counting my blessings," Eala had said before the tournament. "I'm taking the lessons that I have had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more and in a better way in Cincinnati and New York." But counting blessings is harder when you're stuck in a locker room, watching the clock tick, waiting for a match that may or may not resume. And then, the news came that match would not be restarted. The announcement sent shockwaves through the tennis world. The match was officially postponed. It would be resumed the following day, if conditions allowed. But Eala was not satisfied with the official explanation. She had questions, and she was not afraid to ask them. In a moment that stunned the WTA, Eala finally broke her silence. She revealed why the match hadn't been restarted, and her words left everyone speechless. "People think it was just about the lightning," she reportedly said. But there was more to it. Much more. Eala spoke about the conditions on the court, the state of the surface, and the concerns that had been raised by both players and officials. She spoke about the medical timeout that Ruse had taken, the injury that had been treated, and the uncertainty that had followed. It wasn't just about the weather, Eala revealed. There were other factors. The court wasn't right. The conditions weren't optimal. And we had to make sure that when we went back out there, we could play our best tennis. Both of us. The revelation was stunning. The WTA had been operating under the assumption that the delay was purely weather-related. But Eala's words suggested something more. A behind-the-scenes negotiation, a battle over conditions, a determination to ensure fairness for both players. For me, it was about respect, Eala continued. Respect for the game. Respect for my opponent. Respect for the fans who had come to watch us play. I wasn't going to go back out there until I knew that the conditions were right. The WTA was stunned. Tournament officials scrambled to respond. But Eala's words had already been heard around the world. August 16th, 2026. The match resumed. The conditions were right. And Alex Eala did exactly what she had promised to do. She walked onto the court with the confidence of a champion. She had waited. She had fought. She had spoken her truth. And now, she was ready to finish what she had started. Her opponent, Elena-Gabriela Ruse, was a dangerous player who had pushed her to the limit 2 years ago. But Eala was not the same player she had been in 2024. She was stronger, faster, mentally tougher. From the very first point, Eala took control. She picked up right where she had left off, her serve dialed in, her ground strokes precise, her movement effortless. The crowd, back in full force, their flags waving, their chants echoing, roared with every point. The final scoreline was a statement. Eala had crushed her former tormentor. The revenge was complete. The crowd erupted. The flags waved. The chants of Laban, Alex, echoed through the stadium like thunder. After the match, Eala was asked about her decision to speak out. She smiled, her eyes filled with emotion. "That I had to say something," she said. "I had to let people know what was really happening. There's so much speculation, so much confusion, and I just wanted to set the record straight, that it's an amazing experience," she added. "It's nice to see that the Filipino community is up and enjoying tennis. Hopefully, it will help grow the sport as well and, in the end, give them something new and joyful experience. Maraming salamat sa mga kababayan natin sa lahat ng ginawa niyo mula sa Washington hanggang Toronto at sa lahat ng gagawin niyo pa. Parati kayong sumasuporta at nagdadasal. Parati kayong nagpupukaya tuloy-tuloy lang akong magtatrabaho para sa inyo." The crowd went absolutely mad. Alexandra Eala had not just won a match. She had proven that she was a champion on and off the court. She had spoken her truth. She had stood up for what was right. And she had shown the world that she was not afraid to break the silence. The WTA was stunned, but they were also impressed. She handled it with grace and professionalism, one official said. "She's a true champion." From the cracked courts of Quezon City, where tennis was a luxury, to the center courts of Cincinnati, where she had broken every ticket record in tournament history, Alexandra Eala had proven that champions don't just win matches. They move mountains. From the cracked courts of Quezon City to the center courts of Cincinnati, where she has broken every ticket record in tournament history, Alexandra Eala has proven that champions don't just win matches. They move mountains. And when the match was suspended, when the silence stretched on, when the questions mounted, she didn't stay silent. She broke her silence and revealed the truth. The WTA was stunned. But Alex Eala was just getting started.